Have you seen these mugs? 2009, 100 years of UUCE. Memory is all around us. So, a confession, which is how I like to start all my sermons. I am one of those people who is terrible about keeping in touch with their friends. My friends know this well. I can go years without speaking to my friends, just thinking of them fondly from time to time, and pick right back up where we left off. If I don't hear from someone, I assume that our friendship is just right where I left it. And all is well. Not everyone assumes this, but I think of it like one of those big wheels of Parmesan cheese that you leave in a cave for like 5 years. Or you don't need to check on the cheese every day. It's maturing and improving on its own. I can have coffee with someone maybe like once a year, and after a decade I'll think, wow, 10 years of friendship. Look how far we've come. And we've spent like a cumulative half a day together. The people I love are really never far from my heart. I think of them all the time, even if I don't tell them that, even if I'm not with them, even if I don't call. But it has been made aware to me that for most human beings, feeling remembered and thought of is important to our emotional health. Relationships, it turns out, take a kind of maintenance, like a two-way kind of maintenance. When you check in with other people, they feel glad that you've remembered them, but you do have to check in and tell them. A friend recently asked me, why didn't you respond to my text? I sent you a picture of a cat. And I said, oh, well, I looked at it and I said, that's cute, and I put my phone down. And he said, you know I didn't hear you say that, right? Okay, then. So in some cases, this has been brought to my attention. It's true that friends typically go places and do things, neither of which sound fun to me. Someone else recently asked me if we were still friends, and I said, yes, why wouldn't we still be friends? They replied, because we never hang out. And I thought to myself, why would we hang out? But I didn't say that, because that's not the right answer. For them. As an introvert, and a committed introvert, a proud introvert, I strongly believe there is a place in this world for people who are disappointing at parties. Yes. The last party I went to was in 2012. Never again. When I was a child, I heard the story of the Hunchback of Notre Dame living in a belfry, surrounded by gargoyles, and I thought, that sounds great. Sometimes it still does. I read stories about saints who lived in the wilderness alone, in caves sometimes, and they only came out of their hut to give advice to wayward travelers. And I lament the fact that there are no longer career opportunities for ministers to take the prophetic hermit career track. Like I could come out of the hut wearing a big cloak and carrying a lantern and say, my child, have you brought snacks? No snacks, no blessings. But even my introverted heart understands how important it is to be recognized and remembered by other people. And I am, believe it or not, called to be among people. No one was more surprised than me. I tried to hang up on the call to ministry several times. One of the hardest things, though, about moving across the country, relocating to come live here in Eugene, was being at the post office that first week and just suddenly realizing, definitively, that I would not run into anybody I knew. There was no chance. I moved to Eugene a year before I started working here at the church, and for at least 6 months, I felt like a stranger everywhere I went. I thought I was an introvert of the highest magnitude, But back home in Philadelphia, I might not see any one of my friends that often, but on any given day, I would see someone I recognized. Someone would smile at me. I had spent a lifetime getting to know people. And I remember vividly the first time I just ran into someone on the street here in Eugene who knew me. It was someone from the senior meals program where I had been volunteering. And the last time I'd seen them there, we'd just been talking about the law that you need lights on your bicycle here. It's not the case in Philadelphia. But you need lights on your bike if you ride at night. And they said to me, "Hey, Sarah," they saw me on the street, "did you ever get those lights on your bike?" At first, I was surprised just to hear someone call my name. It was really very sad when I realized it. And then I said, no, I got the lights, I haven't put them on. And they gave me a hard time about it, and we joked back and forth. And I said, "I'll see you around." And I walked home, tearful, thinking, they remembered. They remembered. Someone remembered me. And I think that's the day when I started to feel at home here. My friend and colleague Gur Malandu Mwanga, whom I do see more than once a year, even though he lives in South Africa because we go to seminary together, Gur has taught me about the Bantu philosophy of Ubuntu. Who's heard of this? Fantastic, a couple. I'm so excited to introduce you to this. Ubuntu is the philosophy of humanity as a whole. The word Ubuntu translates literally as, "I am because we are." I am because we are. It's the African humanist version of the old question, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound? If a human exists but isn't acknowledged by other humans, are they fully human? I only am because there is a we to acknowledge me. In other words, I am who I am because I'm related to everyone around me. In community, we perceive each other, we acknowledge each other, we reflect each other's humanity back to each other. Every time we have a conversation between us, you recognize me affirming my selfhood, and I recognize you affirming your selfhood. If a human exists but is not acknowledged by other humans, are they fully human? Dr. Michael Onyebuchi Eze writes, "The idea that a person is a person through other people strikes as an affirmation of one's humanity through recognition of another in his or her uniqueness and difference. This idealism," he writes, "it suggests to us that humanity is not embedded in any one person as an individual. Humanity is a quality we owe each other. We create each other and need to sustain this otherness creation. And if we belong to each other," he writes, "if we belong to each other, we participate in our creations. We are because you are, and since you are, definitely I am." I think this is why it feels so important to us to remember others and to be remembered. It means we are. Not just that we exist, but that we exist as full humans, with histories and memories, with ancestors who gave us our names, people who are loved and understood, not merely breathing and existing. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I became a Unitarian Universalist washing dishes. It wasn't sitting in the pews that bonded me to my church. It was talking in the kitchen with the other church ladies. As an introvert, just standing around at coffee hour, talking when I didn't know anyone, was daunting at best. But when our hands were full of dishcloths and coffee mugs and silverware, the conversation came more easily. And those around me became real people, with stories and memories, with the details of their lives just casually mentioned as we dried the plates. And I became the same thing to them. I became someone. Now, today is the last day you can sign up to be in the small group ministry program, incidentally. Who here has participated in the small group ministry? Show of hands. Wow, at least half the congregation. So like a majority of people here have participated at one time or another, but I wanted to say a word about it for the people who haven't. So basically, you just meet with a small group, as the name would imply, twice a month from January to May, to talk. You stay in the same group the whole time, and the groups get to know each other really well. Am I right?
Yes.
Oh yes, you get to know each other very well because you'll do a lot of listening to one another, a lot of deep sharing from your personal experience when you can be heard and appreciated. Each session is structured and it has a theme, and a facilitator guides the discussion. The facilitators are really well trained and really experienced. They're fantastic at this kind of thing. And there's room for laughter and tears and bonding. And at the end, the group does some kind of service project together. So my last small group had a lot of fun getting muddy, working on the cob house. It was a good day. So in a way, this small group ministry program is one of the foundations of our church life and a foundation of this community. If you're pretty new and wondering how some of these people all seem to know each other that well, that's probably how. It's not from coffee hour. It's because of the small group ministry program. So you do have to commit to attend each session as best you can, but that commitment, it really does pay off. So if you want to be in one of those small groups during coffee hour, I want you to go see the inimitable Dick Lesher. Dick, where are you? Dick will be wearing the small group ministry hat at that table back there. Thank you, Dick Lesher, who's been running this program for a good many years, and he will sort you into one of these small groups based on when you're available. So you'll tell Dick some times and days you're available and get sorted into a group. And then, when you come to church on Sunday and look around, you will see the members of your small groups, and you will see them for who they are, their thoughts and feelings, stories of their lives, the breaths of their ancestors still breathing through them, and they will recognize that in you. Speaking of recognizing each other, I wanted to say a word about name tags today. You may have read in the newsletter that lay pastoral associate Sally DeCou has alphabetized all the name tags on the name tag tree at the back of the room, and that name tag tree is one way we figure out when someone has not been to church in a while and may need a phone call or checking up on that something might not be okay. It's really how I find out if you've been sick, if you haven't let me know, if that name tag is still back there. So you might not realize how much I can see from up here, but I can see that tree, and I now have grave concerns about, like 150 of you, and your health and well-being and general state of aliveness, except that I can see you. And your name tags are back there. And I want to say that I understand, because it's been 2 years since I regularly attended the Church of the Restoration. I'm still finding backup name tags in my car. But it is so hard for visitors to feel included if they're expected to remember so many names. I think we have a real human impulse to acknowledge each other, to want to recognize others and call them by their name. And when we can't do that, it feels a little wrong and uncomfortable. Plus, I think many churches have an unspoken elite level of membership where you've been here for so long that everyone knows who you are and you don't need to wear a name tag. That is not very universalist. Especially because for members who are making normal progress in their aging, names that they've known for many years can be tougher and slower to recall. And when they don't see their friend's name on a name tag, it puts them in a really tough spot socially. That is really uncomfortable for them. So if you don't want to tell people your name, that's okay. As always, with everything we do here, you can opt out. But for the rest of us, we're going to make some name tags right now. We have put some stickers on your chair. There's crayons here and there. You're going to have to share with some neighbors. I'm not shaming you. If you're not wearing one, it's okay. You're going to put it on right now. If you need assistance, perhaps you're blind or can't write so well anymore, please ask one of your neighbors. And if you have a neighbor who needs some assistance, please ask respectfully if you can help. All right, tag yourselves up. You guys are exempt because you're wearing socks. great. Thank you, Brad. Welcome to church. Just so you know, the choir is temporarily exempt because they're wearing stoles, but some of them need to get credit for having name tags under their stoles. So let's return to this space, recenter, recombobulate. We have been named. We are ourselves. Thank you all for indulging me in the cruel dictatorship of my 1-hour ministry. I wanted to note before the end of this hour that church, it's one of the few places you can go in modern capitalist society that you don't need to pay to be in there. That and the library. It's just church and the library are the two places you can go and just be without having to buy your way into community, without having to justify your existence with money. Many older people, disabled people, young people, homeless people, and caretakers tend to have limited resources and thus have limited opportunities to exist in civic society and be remembered for who they are as worthy individuals. Almost a third of senior citizens live alone, many of whom can go weeks without speaking to another person or being called by name. The epidemic of loneliness and isolation among our economically non-useful citizens is damaging to the human soul and to dignity. We live in a society where if you're not making money and being productive, optimally productive, there is no place for you. I mourn that. It's wrong. And we at this church are a bulwark against it because we look each other in the eye, we call each other by name, and we acknowledge inherent worth and dignity in one another. Everybody here matters. Nobody is illegal. Nobody is useless. Nobody is left out, and you do not have to do the dishes to earn your place here. I think what made me so uncomfortable to stand around at coffee hour when I first started attending church, it wasn't just my introversion. It was my learned conviction that everyone has to be useful in some way. Like most of us, I had been inculcated with the secular religion of capitalism. And these weren't beliefs I knew I had, they were just unexamined assumptions that I thought to be universally true, because capitalism is the water in which we swim. In our society, unless you're producing capital, you have no worth as a human being. This is a system that uses up human lives and human bodies and turns them into capital. It is not a coincidence that fascism, racism, and other human evils are thriving in a society that has widely accepted as truth the idea that your worth is measured in your wealth, there is not enough to go around, and your name does not matter. We turned the House of Representatives around last week. Yet many of us have noted that this is not enough, that hatred lost, but not by an impressive margin. It may feel as if the political and social justice work ahead of us is insurmountable, but I cannot underscore enough how critically important, how revolutionary, how radical it is in this society, in this climate of dehumanizing consumerism, to simply remember one another by name. Now, I'm not saying you won't experience disappointments at church, slights and conflicts. In fact, those are consequences of normal human interactions. Real life is not as seamless as a Hallmark movie. Hallmark movies were created to sell ads. We have nothing to sell you here. What we offer is rehumanization, acknowledgement of one another's beautiful nature, our names, our stories, our memories, our ministries. We offer the spirit of Ubuntu, the idea that a person is because people are, that I am because we are. May it ever be so. Amen. Amen.